to this event on the future policing strategies for a safer Los Angeles. I'm Dr. Richard Downey. I'm the president and CEO of the Los Angeles World Affairs Council. And on behalf of the Los Angeles World Affairs Council, as well as the American Society for Public Administration, we are honored to have all of you with us today. One of the things that we start with is the Pledge of Allegiance. So apologies, but I'm going to introduce Abraham Montez, who is from Reseda High School, Charter High School, which is, by the way, a police academy magnet, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please help me welcome Abraham Montez?
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Abraham. And looking very sharp in your police uniform there. Yes. So please enjoy your lunch. But while we do that, again, it is a tremendous honor to have all of you with us today, and we're especially honored and pleased to have with us Chief Jim McDonnell, who is the right man in the right place in Los Angeles. We're glad to have you, sir. So, very interesting presentation today. By the way, there are people who live downtown. I know all of us are interested in a safer Los Angeles, and that's what this event is about today. Just to let you know what's going to happen here, you please continue to eat your lunch. But what we'll do is we're going to invite up, first up, we'll have a couple of speakers. But after that, there'll be about 30 minutes of moderated discussion with our two moderators. And then we'll have open it up for you all for question and answer. So please get your questions ready for the chief. And don't hold back. This is not a guy you need to hold back to. So if you have a question, ask it. He can handle it. Trust me. But I also want to make a couple of announcements of events that we have coming up. We're really happy you could join us today, but we have some interesting ones that I think you might find enjoyable and worth your time to come to. One of them is tomorrow night. And some of you may remember Dr. Fiona Hill, who was a National Security Council staff working the Ukraine. And so it was during a very tough time during the Trump administration, and she's coming to talk about negotiations in Ukraine. That's tomorrow night at the Skirball Center at 5:30. On Tuesday, we have a screening of a documentary. It's called The Bibi Files. It's on Prime Minister Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and it has a lot of inside footage about him. And then after that, there'll be a panel with rabbis that are for Prime Minister Netanyahu and one who is not, and a discussion about that. So it'll be very interesting. And that's in the historic Ricardo Montalban Theater in Hollywood. And we have a lot of others that I won't go into, but one more I'll point out that's of interest. It's a ways off, but for this particular crowd, this group here, this audience, you might find on the 7th of May, we have Admiral James Stavridis coming. He's the former Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, so he was the head of NATO, the military side of NATO, and he's also now CNN's head global security affairs correspondent. So it should be a very interesting event, and that's going to be in the Hollywood American Legion post, right next to the Hollywood Bowl. So mark that one on your calendars. That's one not to miss. That's on the 7th of May. But now let me introduce Dr. Rui Sun, who is the president of the Southern California chapter of the American Society of Public Administration. She's also the co-director at Cal State Dominguez Hills of the Public Policy Institute. So, we are so honored to be co-sponsoring this event with the American Society of Public Administration. Please help me give a very warm welcome for Dr. Rui Sun. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Downey, for the warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ray Sung. I'm also a professor at Cal State Dominguez Hills, teaching in the public administration program. I'm very honored to represent ASPA today. So before we get started, let me ask, how many of you are ASPA members? Show of your hands. Yes, I see a few hands. So for those of you who are not members yet but have heard of ASPA, have you heard of ASPA? If not, we have some of the flyers at the registration desk when you walk out the door, and please grab one. So welcome you join our wonderful society. So ASPA stands for American Society for Public Administration. It is the leading professional membership association for public service. Since 1939, ASPA has connected government, academia, nonprofit professionals to advance excellence in public service through research, networking, and professional development. And now ASPA has more than 10,000 members in the United States and beyond, with more than 50 local chapters and 30 plus expert subject matter sections. The Southern California chapter of ASPA was founded in 1948. It serves Los Angeles, Orange County, Santa Barbara County, and also Ventura counties. So we serve all 4 counties in our region. Led by the chapter council, our chapter engage local communities through initiatives like the annual awards luncheon. This year's luncheon will be held on April 25th in downtown. So you please visit our website, and we welcome you attending our luncheon to celebrate our public service. We also host those student professional networking dinners in collaboration with universities in our region. And also, of course, we build partnership with organizations that share our vision of promoting effective and ethical public service leadership. So today's event is a fantastic example of such a partnership. Our collaboration with the LA World Affairs Council and Town Hall. We are incredibly grateful to be working with Dr. Downey and his team to bring you this important conversation with our Chief McDonnell today. So now, yes.
Say one thing before we start the introductions. We are so honored. We have a number of board members from both our organizations here today. Could I ask the members of the Los Angeles World Affairs Council board to please stand and be recognized? Yeah, thank you very much. And please stay standing, please stay standing. Could I also ask all the members of the ASPA board to stand up and be recognized? Oh, thank you all very much. We're so honored to have all of you here.
Thank you so much. So now I would like to introduce the amazing people facilitating today's discussion, two of our dedicated so-called ASPA chapter council members. The first one is Bianca. Ms. Bianca Hunter-Beckley is our Vice President of Programs and Event at so-called ASPA. Bianca is the Associate Director at People Assisting the Homeless, PATH, a nonprofit organization where she ensures program success and builds strong connections with public and private partners. Bianca holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration, also an MPA degree, a master's in public administration degree, both from CSU-DH, Dominguez Hills, where I proudly teach and serve. Bianca is currently working toward a doctoral degree in organizational change and leadership with a research focus on strengthening community police relationships through meaning-centered leadership. Next, we have Jim Grant. Jim is our Vice President of Membership at so-called ASPA. Jim dedicated 30 years to public services in Los Angeles, beginning as a management assistant with the Department of General Services and retiring as a crime intelligence analyst with LAPD. His work in the Office of Inspector General of the LA Police Commission played a critical role in uncovering the infamous Rampart Division corruption scandal in the late 1990s. Jim remains active in ASPA and other civic organizations like the Leadership Southern California and the LA, of course, LA World Affairs Council. He is also an immediate past chair of the ASPA section on ethics and integrity in governance. Jim holds a BA degree in political science from UC Santa Barbara MPA from CSU Long Beach, and a certification in crime and intelligence analysis from CSU Fullerton. So now it's my pleasure to invite Jim up to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, Chief McDonnell. Please join me in welcoming Chief McDonnell and our moderators to the stage.
This is going to be a tale, if you will, of 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon not included. You have the chief's formal biography, but I'm going to talk a little bit as we get into our conversation about how our paths wound up crossing. On the 3rd of March, 1991, I didn't know it at the time, but a piece of videotape would completely change the arc of my career at the city. That was known as the Rodney King beating, an infamous incident in LAPD history. 6 years later, I found myself in the office of the Inspector General, where I would spend 8 years looking over this gentleman's shoulder as part of civilian oversight over law enforcement. He would spend 10 years returning the favor, looking over my shoulder, because I was assigned then to Van Nuys Division and produced maps and others for a process known as ComStat. So it is great to see you, and wonderful to be here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with headlines, if you will, and Bianca will kind of get into the meat of our conversation. Some of this is, well, I'm not going to say PTSD, but certainly a walk down memory lane for me, and I know for you as well. I remember when I was supervising a crime analysis detail in Van Nuys Division, I had a young copper working for me who insisted he was a warrior, kept telling me about the warrior ethos, and everything in between. And so I think Bianca will open with the question, but we'll headline this part, Warriors or Guardians. How do you expect the balance to be achieved? And I think you can flesh that out a little bit, Bianca, and we'll get into our conversation.
Thank you, Jim. So, Chief McDonnell, with an increased demand for community policing, how can we train officers to embrace a guardian mindset while still being prepared for high-risk situations that require immediate action?
Well, thank you. Thank you both very much for the introduction, for the invitation to be here today. Thank you to all my partners who came out here today from the LAPD, Beverly Hills PD, and other departments, LASD. It's great to see everybody. To our students here today, thank you for being here today. If we can be of assistance to you as you move forward, trying to make career choices or whatever we can be helpful in, feel free to reach out at any time. And to all of our community leaders who are here today, it's great to see you, and I look forward to the opportunity to be able to work with all of you as we move forward in the months and years ahead. To go to the question, warrior or guardian, that has been something that has been kicked around in policing now for quite some time. And that is the big challenge that we face when we do recruiting. We need somebody who can come in, who can have a level of competence that everybody expects. They need superior character so that we trust them and we know that they're going to do the right thing. And then we need people who have compassion, who don't just see it as another radio call, another body, but these are people's lives that you're dealing with. And while you may see 20, 30 people a day, they'll only see you or maybe someone who looks like you, a police officer, once in their whole life. So every one of us has to be an ambassador for everybody we deal with. It's a great opportunity to be able to influence the way the public perceives police, our profession, but also a big challenge. But yet, when we do that, you could say, okay, I know the type of person we need in the field, and you could go out and recruit them. But then you also need somebody who can, when needed, be able to transition from the nice person, from the compassionate person, to somebody who's willing to run into a building where somebody inside there is firing off an automatic weapon. There's kids in there, it's a school, it's a store, it's whatever. That same person is not always in the same body. The person who is going to be able to realize that, as you put it, the warrior ethos, that they're willing to put themselves between the threat and the public. That takes a special kind of person to be willing to do that. And we would, I think, in society call that kind of a warrior type personality. So we need both a warrior when needed, but generally speaking, a guardian. Somebody who sees the radio calls we get, the interactions we have as opportunities to be able to help set somebody onto the right path, set them up for success as they move forward. We deal with people often on the worst day of their lives, and if we can make that day just a little bit more manageable for them, then we've done a pretty good job. Let me just throw out something as well that is part of that recruiting. We're looking for people, generally the people that are interested in policing are 21 to, say, 26 years old as a rule. They come from whatever background they have. They express an interest, they apply for the job, and they go through a pretty serious screening process before they're accepted into the academy. I don't have the current numbers, and we're having difficulties recruiting, but back when we were looking at the numbers, I'd say pre-2019, for every 100 people who applied to be an LA police officer, 4 made it to the academy, 3 made it through the academy. Do you know of another profession with a 97% washout rate? You know, you think about it from that way, yet those people who make it you would think would be superhuman, but they're just people like the rest of us. And they have whatever life experience they had coming into the academy. We have them for 6 months in the academy, and we cram as much information as we can into them so that they'll have the tools they need to be able to deal with whatever comes their way. They serve, once they get through the academy, they serve a period of time with a training officer, and then they're out there on their own. At LAPD, generally they'll have a partner. In many other agents, they're working on their own. And so anything society can throw at them, we've trained society. If you can't handle it, dial 911. 24/7, we'll have somebody there as quickly as we can get them there. And you just think about the complexities that people deal with. When their life is upside down, they dial 911. And you have someone rolling out there who's going to do the very best job they can, maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning with very little sleep, court the day before, turn around, back, court again the next morning, and they're doing what they can. And they get a call, anything from a neighbor dispute to a plane crash, to a robbery in progress, to a murder in progress. And they're going to go there and do what they're trained to do, request whatever resources they need to be able to deal with it. And when it's done, they're going to be second-guessed, maybe for the rest of their life, particularly if they had a use of force that involved deadly force. It's something they're going to wear forever. That's a lot to ask of a young person, to be able to take this on. And in the environment that we've seen in the last several years, the perception, at the very least, of police officers is they're not being supported. So if we're asking people to put themselves in that kind of a position, and then they see that their bosses aren't supporting them, the political establishment's not supporting, the media's not supporting them, all of a sudden you do the cost-benefit analysis, and we can see why we're having problems recruiting and retaining people. In 2020, after the George Floyd incident, we saw a brain drain in policing. We lost police chiefs across the country because it just didn't seem it was worth for what they were getting out of it to come and put themselves in that place. But we didn't only lose that person because maybe the second, third, and fourth in command were being groomed to ultimately be able to take over that job. They all left. If they had the time, they left. So now we have people in command positions around the country that, unfairly to them, they were not put in the chairs all the way up to be successful in the role that ultimately they're responsible for what happens, anything that happens in their organization. And so all of that, to your answer, is just trying to set the stage for the challenges we're facing in recruiting. But I say, amongst the difficulties, you know, I could elaborate on them for probably an hour up here. But at the end of the day, I've been doing this for 44 years, and I think you could ask my partners in the room as well. There's nowhere else we'd rather be, or we would not rather do anything else. This profession, you won't get rich. You won't be you know, it's not as lucrative as the private sector in many cases. It's steady. You get a good retirement. But what you can't put a price on are the people you had the opportunity to be able to help them, as I said, sometimes on the worst day of their life. The people you get to work with who are similar, willing to go out there and put everything on the line for someone they've never met. That takes a unique person, and again, going back to the guardian warrior, you got to be both. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, and I think that kind of leads into the second question, and I'll preface it this way. I was pretty green within my first couple of months at the Inspector General's office. I was reviewing officer-involved shootings. One shooting that particularly bothered me was a gentleman by the name of Javier Ovando. And for 2 years, I was chasing Rafael Perez and Nina Durden. And I did make some tactical errors. You and I can talk about that out of here, how I screwed this up. But we're going to get into, and I think you've already prefaced it, with accountability. Because that was Rampart. You know, we had a build-up. We didn't vet well back then. I was the liaison to Rampart. I remember that the captain who was involved, who I knew, took his own life as a result of that. And Bianca, I think I'll toss it to you for the meat of the question.
Thank you. So, learning from past mistakes, such as the Rampart scandal, where lack of oversight and proper vetting led to widespread corruption and misconduct, what safeguards has the LAPD put into place to ensure accountability and prevent similar issues from arising in the future?
Thank you. And to put it in context, that's 30 years ago. You got to let it go. We learned an awful lot from that about structure, about accountability, about the kind of things that have to be in place, but also the culture of the organization, where you have a duty to report somebody else who's maybe your partner if they're going down the wrong road, they're doing criminal behavior certainly, or misconduct. You have an obligation to come forward, raise your hand, and say, you know, this is what I'm seeing. Ideally, you stop it yourself. You have the courage to step up when someone's crossing the line, and you intervene and you stop them from what they're doing before they get themselves in trouble. We talk about tactics, we talk about officer safety, but career safety and keeping someone, your partner, out of trouble when you're involved in a situation that is very emotional, you're dealing with a use of force that may be life or death, you've got to do it the right way, and we have to help each other do it the right way. And so I look back to Rampart in the mid-90s, and that was tragic on the suicide that resulted from that. But we're in a place where Rampart Division is over, just west of downtown, and they were in a building made for 200 people, and there were 400 people assigned there. So everything was just make it happen, make it happen. Well, we don't have the resources, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the cars, we don't have pretty much what we needed. Just make it happen. Well, that attitude up the chain of command and for the political establishment who is responsible providing for the needs of all of our organizations, it was kind of brushed aside, and it was that attitude of just get it done. That, I think, is a risk management issue that if you don't take that head on and you don't push back, you're going to end up with things like this that happen, because you can get into a black and white police car tonight in most any division, and you go on a ride along. And I would encourage anybody here who has an interest in doing that to see really what goes on out in the field. Because you get in the black and white with patrol officers, they sign on and they have 5 calls waiting. And they're going to get to those that prioritize, continuously prioritize and reprioritize based on what's happening. Some may be dispoed and you don't have to handle it, you'll get another one. And they're constantly retoned, so you get a higher priority call. So if you've got a bunch of calls that are relatively routine report calls, you'll be retoned and you'll be sent to a crime of violence in progress, and that goes to the top of the queue. So that's happening continuously. If you get an arrest, you're out of the field for the next several hours dealing with that. But these officers are constantly dealing with very complex problems, but also they got to get there quickly, because everybody, when they call 911, wants the police now and deserve it. but they have to get out of there quickly because there's more calls waiting. And we do not have the capacity to be able to do what we would love to do, is to stay up to speed and be able to handle call after call after call and every call and do it the way we would like to do it, which means you get to a burglary call, to take the report, to walk the person around, look at the points of entry, look at opportunities to be able to help safeguard the premises so you don't have it recur again. The reality is they get there, they take the report, it'll go to detectives for follow-up if there's follow-up information, and they're off to the next calls. That's not something that is comfortable for police officers who want to get out there and be helpful, but they're driven by the workload, the call load, and the type of calls that they're dealing with. And so I think in an ideal place, we would someday have enough people to do the job and be able to do enough things in our society where there aren't as many radio calls, there aren't as many problems. We're dealing with things not by using police officers, but by using community-based organizations, education, prevention, intervention, to be able to, when people are being released from custody, to make sure before they're released, they have the tools to have a shot at being successful when they go back to their communities. I can't say that's happening now. And when I was the sheriff a couple of years back, there were 18,000 people in custody in LA County Jail. And that's a lot of people. But now it's just over 12,000. So where did those 6,000 people go? Sadly, they're back on our streets. And were we able to do anything as an intervention where they're now behaving themselves and living the life we'd like to see them live with the opportunity to be what they can be? I would say in many cases, no. Because we're dealing with addiction problems, we're dealing with mental health problems, we're dealing with problems that take a long time, energy, and resources to be able to be effective with. And we're doing Band-Aids on what needs to be a surgery. And so I look at that and I throw to our young people out there, these things are not insurmountable, but they're problems that need to be dealt with very seriously. And the way we've dealt with it historically up to now is to be able to deal with the incident, but not the underlying problem. We need to start dealing with the underlying problem. And that's going to take, I think, a different way of looking at the criminal justice system and society, the overlap between criminal justice, education, healthcare, and all of the other institutions in our society that we viewed as silos. They're not silos. Everything, if you have a young person, and I'm a big proponent of encouraging kids to get advanced education, to pay attention, to do well in school. My dad, my parents, immigrants from Ireland, came over. My dad went to the 5th grade. The wisdom out of that guy, he would say, you know what, America's a great country. He goes, and education is the great equalizer. If you treat people well, you work hard, and you get an education, your chances of being successful here are pretty high. And at the time you were a kid, yeah. But I think back on that now, and tremendous wisdom there. And then you look at the statistics that kids who can't read by the time they hit the 3rd grade, you look at their trajectory of success down the road, it's not good. And something as easy and as cheap to do as literacy, taking the time with kids and being able to help put them in a seat where they can be successful. And it accumulates as you go and gets exponentially worse as they get into high school and they're passed through. So I'm getting the high sign here. I spent too long on that question, but I could talk for an hour on that, and I can't say enough and encourage you enough that education is so critical in what we do because it helps keep young people out of the system.
All right, I'm going to go ahead because I got the same message you did. And briefly, I'm the grandchild of immigrants, and my grandmother survived the 1911 shirtwaist factory fire, Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York. I wouldn't be here if she hadn't survived, so I'm aware of that every day and what this country involves. And so she was the victim of a crime. I've been very proud of our Special Order 40, which views the undocumented not as menaces, but as victims and protect them. So I think the question really is what steps can law enforcement take to reassure undocumented residents that they can report crimes and seek help without fear of deportation, especially with this change in administration.
Thank you, Jim. Yep. You can add on to that? Or? Okay. Thank you for that question, because that's one that is creating great anxiety today in our Southern California area, but nationally as well. We have a large population of people in LA that are undocumented and very nervous about what does that mean. Many have been here a long period of time and have raised kids and successful in what they've been doing, but are not documented. And up to this point, there's been a level of anxiety, but not to the intensity that we see today. So our role or our goal at LAPD is to be able to communicate to the public what we do. And what we don't do is civil immigration enforcement. And I'll go back to where that comes from, and it's 1979, and he mentioned Special Order 40. A special order for us is nothing more than an order that changes the policy and procedure manual as it moves forward. But what it did, Chief Darrell Gates was the chief at the time, and he realized that if we're viewed as an arm of immigration, then people are not going to come forward if they're a victim of a crime or witness to a crime or participate in the criminal justice process. If they don't do that and we don't have people coming forward, we cannot possibly be successful. And who wins? The people who are the predators, people taking advantage of other people. They're the ones who skate over and over on that. So over time, we've had to work on developing the trust of the communities that we serve to be able to put us in a position where pretty much people feel comfortable with the LAPD. From an immigration standpoint, that's not our role, our job, and we realize it's detrimental to our core mission. So we want to be as open and plain and loud about that as we can, because my hope is that we can alleviate some of the anxiety that's being felt in many of our communities. Still, are ICE going to come out and do whatever it is ICE does? They're a law enforcement agency, of federal agents that come out and they do their job. We don't assist them in doing that job, and so that's where the line is drawn. So far, what we've seen, there was a big worry that this past weekend that there would be sweeps and mass deportations. And from the information I have, I think there were 12 arrests made throughout the whole area. So they were in the area, but we didn't see what many expected to see. As we move forward, we'll continue to maintain the posture we have, because it's the way we need to do business to be able to help protect everybody in the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, and yes. All right, I'm biased. This is why this man is chief and why I would follow him anywhere, in case you recall me to active duty. Bianca, I'm going to just headline our last couple of questions, because I think we'll throw it after that to Q&A, if you don't mind. And to the audience at large, perhaps these are some of your questions. But I was going to talk about emergency preparedness, crisis response, medical, emotional, and then everybody's favorite topic before the Palisades fire. Shout out to my fellow members of the Palisades Elementary class of 1967. The Olympics.
Sure. Yeah, in fact, we have the Chief of Security here today for LA28, Viviette Morgan. Viviette, thank you for being here. She took over, she took over that position after a long and successful career with the FBI. And so we've known her for 30 years, probably been good partners over the years, and now have an opportunity to work with her in this capacity. The Olympics are a giant undertaking for any city anywhere in the world. Certainly with the challenges that we face here in Los Angeles on a day-to-day basis, it's an added layer of complexity, one that we have to do additional training for and prepare for in a way that most people never see. So the things we do that you see would be maybe training for crowd management, crowd control, those type of things. We will do that. But the things you don't see are the intelligence operations behind the scenes. Our hope is not to respond to something, but to prevent something from happening at all. They had success in doing that on a couple of different situations in Paris in the last Olympics. When I go back to our time in '84, I was here for the Olympics, and the focus then was preventing what happened in '72 in Munich from happening here in Los Angeles, and that was terrorists taking hostages. We still have to prepare for that every bit as much as we did then. But we also have so many other threats now that didn't even exist in those days. I'll start with cyber. And so you just think what somebody who is an actor, a malign actor who wants to do something to disrupt the Olympics, to prevent us from doing our job, take out the grid, take out the communication system, the electricity, the ability to be able to do the things that we all take for granted every day. And so as we move forward, it'll be with an eye toward what are the threats, the emerging threats, and what are the threats that we may project that will be here in 28. Before 28 comes, we have the club version of the FIFA World Cup this year. We have the FIFA World Cup next year in 26. We have the Super Bowl, and then we have the Olympics and Paralympic Games. So we have a lot of things on our plate in the years ahead, but we also, I think, enjoy a network, a relationship with our partners at the federal, state, and local level that you don't see anywhere else in the country. We're blessed that we've worked hard to get these because they weren't always like that. But the relationships we have now, I can pick up a phone, or any of my partners can pick up a phone and call the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, any of our federal partners, the CHP, we work with them all the time, and then other agencies that are appropriate for what we do. As I go across the country and talk to different groups, it is not that way. We enjoy something that's very special here in Southern California, and we will continue to nurture that. So a lot of preparation to be done. Ideally, a lot of hiring to be done between now and then. And that's something really, truly, we could use all of your help in recruiting new people to come into the profession. It is, as I mentioned, a great job that I wouldn't trade for anything, but also for somebody starting out in life, the pay, by the time we hit 2027, I think it'll be $104,000 a year to start. And that's pretty good. Plus overtime, plus all the other opportunities then, that people have as they promote through the organization. And, I can't say enough about that. And for me, when I came on the job, I made the decision, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted something that would be different every day. I'd get to meet new people every day. There would be new challenges. And to a degree, I'd get to start fresh every day. And at the end of every day, I could think back and think, you know what? Maybe I made a difference in someone's life today. Maybe I was able to save a life today. Those are the kind of things you can't put a price tag on, but you take them with you for the rest of your life, and you feel pretty good about what you've been able to do.
Thank you for that response.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, I mean, what we talk about in the public administration community is leaving everything better than you found it, and I think you do that every day. Bianca, I think we're going to go to Q&A, and if you wouldn't mind choosing as people put their hands up. Or, let me pass the mic to you, and you can.
Hello again. I don't have a question from you. I just want to congratulate you. Me and my husband is one of the homeless in Palisade. What your people did there, how they stay between us to living there and all the looting they were doing. I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Because it's not only me and him. It's the people, they ran out of the house just with their slipper, and the house came down in a matter of 5 minutes. And whatever it was left there, by people, unfortunately, try to get your people 24/7. They made such a difference. Congratulations, and on behalf of the Palisade, we are proud of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just thank you very much to all of our people for your comments. We greatly appreciate that. As I touched on earlier, again, it goes back to relationships. We still are in the Palisades with about 50 officers a day maintaining crime suppression, traffic access, and so forth. But we also have about 30 CHP officers doing crime suppression with us, and the National Guard is still on board. and they've been here, and the National Guard, I can't say enough for their help, because they're all people who have jobs like we do, and the National Guard is something they do in addition. And they've been deployed now for 2 months to this fire area in an effort to be able to protect it, and that's time away from their families, and they've missed all sorts of family events during that time, and gone through all of the struggles that we all go through just trying to get by, and childcare and all that, but they've remained focused and they stay with us. So we have a great team, but that team gets better when we work with so many others as well. But thank you for your comments.
As a 30-year city employee, I also want to say that we, in the civilian force have responded, and I've had my city colleagues respond even though their own homes were destroyed through the years, Northridge, Sylmar, you name it. And we respond, we make sure our families are safe, but we will back up the chief. We will be there for you, those of us who don't carry badges and guns, but we'll give you our heart.
Thank you. Our civilian professional staff are kind of the engine behind what we do. I can't say enough for the dispatchers, the people who run records and identification, and I could go on and on. Our technical investigation division. They do so much great work, and thank you, Jim, for that comment. I appreciate that. There was something I lost it, but I'll come back to it.
There's a question here in the corner.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Jamie Castillo, and I come from University Prep Value High School. And my question today is, as a police chief who has seen and been in multiple situations, what would you say to students like myself who are looking into the criminal field on what steps to take for preparing for the real world?
What steps to take? Yeah. No, thank you very much. Great question, and I look at you and I feel very optimistic about the society to come. Young people like yourselves who have an interest in policing, who are looking to get into this field, I would say get out there and see more of it. Go on a ride along, see what you think. Do it in multiple places to compare what you see in one area versus another, one department versus another. There's tremendous opportunity. This is a great time to be getting into this profession because everybody's hiring, and you as the candidate are in the driver's seat. So I would say, I would encourage you to take a strong look. Start with LAPD, and and we'll try and show you whatever it is that you have an interest in seeing, so that you can make your decision as knowingly as possible. Tremendous opportunity, and as Jim talked about, our civilian professional staff, if you wanted to get into policing but don't have the same interest in being a police officer, but you want to be able to help and be part of the team, I think we have, I would be guessing the number, but probably 150 different classifications of employment within the police department, all of which contribute to helping make society safer. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We have a question here.
Chief McDonnell, this is Betsy Burke of Mercredier. So glad to have you here. And you're such an inspiring leader and a breath of fresh air for Los Angeles. Thank you so much for all you do. And not to put you on the spot, but with this nationwide effort to reduce DE&I hiring and DE&I programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion, would you, we assume you'll be continuing your efforts in advancing women and people of color in the force? Please tell us your approach to this under all this external pressure that surely you're getting too.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, the term DEI has been kicked around, and everybody interprets it however they want to interpret it. At the end of the day, it's about fairness. It's about hiring a workforce that represents the population that we serve. I'm proud to say, if you were to look at the statistics within LAPD, we almost directly mirror the population we serve, except for women on the sworn side. We have about 20% of the department that are women officers versus 50 or so percent of the population that we serve. That's a work in progress. When I came on the job, there were less than 2% of the department that was women, so we've increased that tenfold. Are we where we'd like to be? We're not, but it's a work in progress, and again, I continue to reach out and try and get the best and the brightest to be able to become part of our organization. And, if you do that, everything kind of works itself out as far as looking at numbers one way or the other. We want the best people, and if we get people from the communities that they're going to serve, they know that community better than anybody else. Thank you, Betsy.
Over here.
Hi, my name is Jerry. I'm from University Prep. Oh, right here. And this is my question. How does the department make sure that officers who engage in misconduct are held accountable? And what changes, if any, have been made to improve transparency?
Great question. I think if you were to ask a police officer about accountability, they would tell you it's over the top. That anything they do is looked at with a microscope, and that in some cases they would feel that it's onerous, that it's hard to do your job because of the level of accountability. I would argue that it may be viewed that way, but it's necessary because what we do is so important to society that it has to be done right. And it has to be done in a way where we're comfortable showing anybody what happened. I'll talk just a minute. We have a Professional Standards Bureau within our department that oversees uses of force, significant uses of force, shootings, force where somebody is hospitalized, as well as allegations of criminal conduct or misconduct. And they investigate those cases to the as much as you would see a homicide investigated or more. And so we take it very seriously. We have a lot of people dedicated to that function. And then we have, as an overlay, we work I'm the chief, but as if in a company, I would be the CEO, but I report to a 5-member board, the police commission, which would be the board of directors in a corporate setting. And so we report to them the use of force, the significant uses of force are adjudicated ultimately by the board of police commissioners. And so the investigation that's done is extremely thorough, and it takes quite a while to be able to get it done. But then ultimately it's reviewed. When we get to a scene of a shooting, an officer-involved shooting, if you were to see the number of people there is probably half this room of investigators that roll out there from internal affairs, from PSB, Professional Standards Bureau overall, from training, from the Inspector General's office, if there's a death, from the coroner's office, the DA's office, risk management, and on and on and on. Command staff all the way up the chain for the involved individuals. It is extremely well vetted as we go through this. And I would encourage you to take a look on YouTube. If you pull up LAPD use of force, you will see videos, the ones that are shown developed and then shown to the Board of Police Commissioners. Those are public. Those are as transparent as you can get. And each one of those is like watching a TV show, except it's real. And when you watch it, think about what could have been done. It goes from the radio call, you'll hear that, and it runs you through the dispatch call to the police vehicle, to their responses, and then to their body-worn video cameras and the videos in the car as to what's happening. So it's not somebody telling a story, it's you watching literally what's happening as you're going. And when you see, I think, in the vast majority of these cases, how little time the officers have to react to the threat and what they do, and the only ones you see are the ones that result in a use of force, a significant use of force in that case. All of the times they get out there, which is the vast majority of times, where they're able to de-escalate the situation, you don't see those because they're not reported in the same way. Those are success stories, and those are 99+% of the calls that people go on. And on the other side, the misconduct part, again, there's layer after layer of people taking a look at this to make sure that the right things are being done. And so thank you for that question. Yeah, but take a look at those if you have an interest.
Chief, my name is Alexandra Lieben. We know each other. Public safety includes law enforcement and the community.
Right.
So how can we educate the community about this and incorporate them in the larger public safety effort?
Thanks, Alexandra. Great question. People talk about community policing. You think about that term, who else would we police? The community is part of the equation. We are part of the community. And so the key is to be able to develop trust and rapport and relationships. So wherever you live, I would ask you to think about it. Do you know the police officers who patrol your area? Do you know the captain who oversees that division? And if you don't, you might want to think about getting involved. They have community police advisory boards in every station throughout the city. They have all sorts of different types of advisory boards and groups that you can get involved with. We have youth programs beyond what I've seen in most any other department throughout the organization as well, where we try and be part of the community in the youth program side to be able to help provide opportunities other than what the kid might get if they end up on the street. They don't have options and alternatives, and it gives them a group of people and peers that they get to hang around with that are a positive influence on their life. So we try and do that because we don't want to put handcuffs on anybody if we can avoid it. We want to be able to set people up for success as best we can. So we're doing an awful lot in that regard and working with our community members. We're always looking for input to be able to see, how do we do the job better? And nobody likes criticism, but we learn the most from criticism, and we get it routinely, so we try and turn it into a positive.
Before we move on to the next question, I do want to chime in on what you said about community policing. I think that, and my mentor knows this because he was a sheriff and we talked a lot about community policing. It's also about the community understanding law enforcement, right? We ask all of these changes of law enforcement and we ask for transparency and accountability, but those systems are in place. So it's up to the community to also mend that relationship and to fill the gap in that bridge, because as we know, we have generational attitudes towards negativity towards police. We have to come to a middle ground in understanding. We advocated for defund the police. The police are already short-staffed, right? So if you have this large institution that's already short-staffed and they're making the effort to protect your communities, they're making the effort to hear your concerns, we can't place the blame of a few individuals on an entire station. I have, thank you. Personally, the 77th Street Division is near my church. They've always shown up in the community, but it also takes the community, especially in urban communities, to relinquish that attitude of looking at the police as something negative and embrace the relationship. Have a meaningful conversation. I know emotions run high. Not to have a heated conversation, but to hear what the police have to say, because they're the one patrolling your neighborhood. They don't even know you. You're a stranger to them. But if push came to shove, they would have to take that bullet to protect you as a citizen. So I want to thank you for your transparency, for the care and concern that you've shown throughout the event today, and just for the effort and the initiatives that you're taking at LAPD. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Bianca.
My name
Thank
is.
you. If I could, just to add one
My
thing.
name
just,
is Waqar Ali Khan.
Can you hang on one sec? Just one thing just I want to mention as it relates to the defund piece. When people talk about taking money away from the police and putting it into other community-based organizations or alternatives to policing, I'm all for funding those, because we don't want to do every job for everybody. We're not equipped or a right entity to do that. We need mental health clinicians to be able to roll out and deal with people who are dealing with a crisis. We send a police officer, they have limited tools to be able to deal most effectively with that person, but they're out there 24/7, so they get the call. But when people talk about defunding and taking that money and putting it elsewhere, 94% of the LAPD budget is personnel. And we're already very low on personnel. So if money is taken away, it's meaning less people are going to be able to respond. That 6% we have has to go for training. It has to go for all of the things you see for us to do our job: helicopters, dogs, bomb equipment, police cars, weapons. All of the systems that we have are that 6%. So everything, if you were to ask someone in the organization, everything is pretty tight, pretty lean. We really encourage our people to take care of their cars and their weapons and their tools of the trade, because they don't get replaced all that often. And so thank you for your understanding on
My
that.
name is Waqar Ali Khan. I'm the chairman, Pakistan American Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of crime on the street, but there is a crime behind the screen. It's called cyber crime.
Right.
It's a big threat. The big corporations, they're taking tawans, money, cheating, frauds through the cybersecurity. So what's your role as the LAPD chief Do you have any special task force to control that? Is there any system in place?
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Sure. Okay, sure. All right. You look good. You look
Hi,
good.
officer. My name is Nate Williams. I'm a junior at Maricosta High School, and as we all know, LA traffic can be a challenge of sorts. So I'm curious how you guys are going to handle that, especially considering our very weak public transportation infrastructure system that we have during the Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the World Cup games, without costing too much taxpayer dollars.
Great. Thank you for that question. I'll start with the cyber question. We do work. We have task forces where we work with our federal, state, and local partners. We have people who are trained up, but the challenge is that the scope of this, or the scale of it, is such that we can only deal with the slice that we're aware of, and so much stuff is going on behind the scenes. While we're sitting here today, somebody half a world away could take all your savings, and you wouldn't know it. Where would you start? How would you try and find them? And if you found them, could you prosecute them? It's a very big, big challenge to all of us. Much of that is not reported the way we would like it to be reported, because the banks cover some of it, credit card companies cover some of it, and we don't, at the local level at least, we don't get an appreciation for just how much of that is going on. We're constantly striving to train our people to be conversant in the cyber world, but it is a challenge, and it's not just fraud, but it goes all the way on the spectrum to terrorism. And so we need experts in every aspect of that in order to be able to shut that down and protect our communities. Another challenge we have is that when we train someone up and they become very good at that, they also get recruited by private sector firms, credit card companies, banks, and so forth, to come and be their expert for 5 times or 10 times the pay that they're able to get here. And so that's a challenge that many of you in different professions have and deal with, but it's one that certainly is relatively new to us, that people are being poached, if you will, the way because of their expertise that they get. So a big challenge, but one that we continue to work on. As far as the transit system, I look back on the '84 Olympics, and if that's instructional for us, I hope it is, because we talked about, the challenges it was going to be gridlock. Nobody would be able to get anywhere. And people took that to heart. And honest to God, during the Olympics, I was driving around in a black and white, and I'm waving to other cops on the road. There was nobody on the road. Everybody took it to heart, and there was no system, no public transportation system in '84. And so I think that we'll be able to manage it if people cooperate and work with us, and we figure out ways to be able to move large numbers of people by buses or other ways to get them to venues, and have remote parking lots where we bring them in from wherever they are and be able to help facilitate that. But I tell you, everybody was surprised in '84 that, hey, where is everybody? This is amazing as to what happened. So I'm optimistic that as we move forward, that we'll be able to put things in place and be able to better use the transit system that we now do have. Thanks for that question.
Wow.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Chief, safety is something all of us think about every single day. Walking down the street here in LA, wherever we live, we think about safety and security every single day. What we don't get every single day is a chance to talk to you and hear you talk about our safety, what we do every day, what's ahead for the World Cup, the Super Bowl, the Olympics. I know everybody feels the same way as that we are so proud that you are in charge of the security for the way ahead. But we have a lot of police officers here in the audience, and every single day, what you've done is describe the dedication of our police officers. And yes, maybe once in a while there's a bad apple, but boy, the character and the dedication that you've described from our policemen everywhere, and what they're trying to do for us, to serve us, is, I just can't think. I'm going to ask all of our police members in the audience, Chief, would you please stand and allow us to thank you for what you do for us every single day. Thank you very much.
I want to go ahead and just echo Dr. Downey's comments before I do, if you'll indulge me, just to recognize our high school students who are here today. There's a number of different schools represented. The Chief of Police of LAPD spoke to you today as much as he spoke to all of us. And one of the things I'm most proud of about the World Affairs Council is the commitment to the young people of our communities and our high schools. I encourage you to learn more about the programs we're offering for high school students that create the access for them to be here to programs like today. And I want to recognize the Sadlers and so many others that help support the programs and make that happen. So.
Thank you so much, Chief.
And Chief, I wanted to acknowledge that the gift today is well within the compliance limits of the LAPD. I don't think we'll have any compliance issues with that. And thank you for your toughness, your discipline, and most of all, your compassionate leadership for our community. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.